Hi, good evening. I would like to call our meeting to order. So the first agenda this evening, we are going to elect the new chairman and vice chairman for the Zoning Board of Appeals. So in doing that, I'm calling for nominations for, first of all, the chairman for the Zoning Board of Appeals. Is anyone nominated?
I'd like to nominate Jack Hart. Jack is a former chairman. He's been with the Zoning and Appeals Board for over 10 years. Does an outstanding job. He knows zoning, and I think he'll make a great leader. That's my second.
Anyone second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so congratulations, Jack Hart.
Well, thank you, Deborah. I really, he spoke first. You should remain as our president. You did very well this last year, and I thought that.
Well, George was a big part of that.
Well,
Now you want to call for vice chairman.
okay, I guess I assume the position of president, and then I'll call for motions for a vice chairman. And at this time, do I have any motions for a vice chairman?
I would like to call for Lamar Clark to be the vice chair.
Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second the motion.
All right, are there any other motions for vice chairman? And do I hear that the motions be that nominations be closed?
Are you going to call for
Yes, I will. I just want to make sure that there's nobody else that has a motion on the floor. Okay,
I officially turned
Lamar
down
Clark
votes.
has been nominated for vice chairman, and I'd like to, since there's no others, could I hear?
All in favor, say aye.
All in favor, say
Aye.
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 Yeah, it's been a while. Okay, and what, that takes care of the agenda for us. The officers. We have one item on the agenda for our consideration tonight. It's item 2019-1, Victor, application by Richard Tassanis and Teresa Hawken for a variation to reduce the side or the east property line setback from 200 feet to 70 feet to accommodate the construction of a horse barn utility building. Property is located in land lot 117, District 2, Section 3, west of Mount Tabor Church Road on the north side of Cedar Ridge Drive, Post 1. Let me just make a statement here concerning the conduct of our meeting. We will give parties involved approximately 15 minutes to discuss the pros and the cons for this variation, and that means the people for and against. And if there are people against, they will have 15 minutes to discuss it, and those for will have 15 minutes to discuss it. And all conversation concerning this variation will be directed to the board. We would ask that anyone speaking or coming up to speak concerning this variance, that you sign our roster up there at the podium and state your name and your interest in this. Okay. Do I have either Richard or Teresa in the, okay. Who would like to speak? Okay, that's Richard. if you would, sign up. He threw a curve. She should still be on.
First, let me start off by thanking the board for taking time out of their busy day to be a part of this board. Without people like you, it'd be anarchy for all of us.
Richard, if you would, pull a mic up there and speak.
Yes, sir.
I'm hard of hearing.
I apologize.
That's all right. Yeah, that's better.
My fiance, Teresa Hawkins, and I purchased this property in September for the purpose of bringing our horses up here from Florida and have them on a property with us. We were led down a path that told us that everything was okay, and apparently it turned out it wasn't. We didn't find out that it wasn't okay, so I went up for a building permit to build the barn, which is when it brought me into this process. We have grown to enjoy Paulding County and the city of Dallas. We don't want to leave it. We're asking for the 70-foot variance adjustment so we can build our barn and allow our horses to graze on our own property. One of the reasons why we bought this property was because we were told that the adjacent county park was designated as a horse park, which this property also has a egress to the park from the property. And so everything was poised to be perfect for us. Bring our horses up, build the barn, have our grandchildren up from time to ride the horses. We wouldn't have to take the horses 50, 100 miles away to ride them again. We could just ride them on our own property as well as the county property behind us, as well as going to Kennesaw to the battlefield to ride them there. So this was perfect. And like I said, we didn't realize it was a problem until I came up for the building permit. And then we decided we had to go forward with it because we weren't prepared. We're not prepared to leave Dallas. I grew up in New Jersey. I was a police officer in New Jersey for 30 years. Retired, moved to Florida. Didn't like Florida. Too hot. And we decided to come to Dallas and here in Georgia. And for all indications, we think it's a perfect community. I'd like to thank you very much for listening to me. And I would also add that I've spoken to all my neighbors, the adjacent properties, as well as on the entire subdivision, which consists of 7 homes. And nobody has a problem with this. Matter of fact, most of them have said that they were looking forward to it. I would ask the board to give me approval for the variance for the 70-foot setback so I can build a barn and enjoy my life after retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I noticed I went out and looked at it. It's pretty close to that house that's next door to you there. In fact, the house looks like it's going to be less than 100 feet away from the barn, isn't it?
No, it's more like 200 feet.
Is it more like 200?
Yes, sir.
Because I thought it was at the setback line on
There is, but there's between the actual structure and the property line, there's a pool, and there's about another 70 feet of her property, and then 70 feet of my property, so it would be about 140 feet to the house.
about 140. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I figured it's okay. And you've had horses before?
Yes, sir.
How many horses you gonna have?
2.
What's the primary food source?
Primary food is hay. Yeah.
I know a lot of people, they get a small tract of land, and I'm not opposed to that, but that's one thing you can ride around this county and see a lot of. If you don't take care of them, there's a lot of people that take care of them, there's a lot that don't.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest problem, is if you don't have adequate pasture and you don't feed them. Naturally, if you love your animals, people love them for a little while, and then when they get old, they put them out to pasture, and next thing you know, you see a starving horse out there.
Well, excuse me, I apologize for interrupting. I'm new to horses within the last couple of years. My fiance, Teresa's had them for 20 years. These horses, the ones we have now, are 18 and 15? 17 and 18 years old. And she's had them since they were yearlings. So they're not going to, we love our horses. We plan, just like we take care of our families, we plan on taking care of our horses. As far as the property is concerned, as of right now, or excuse me, the property we left in Florida was 3.25 acres, and we had the 2 horses on there. We came up here looking for more property, not because we needed it, just because we wanted it. And when we found this property on Cedar Ridge, we thought it was perfect. It not only gave us seclusion from the main roadways and the main traffic, but it gave us, we thought, was ample room for horses to be able to graze. I actually have developed a plan to partition off the property to different pastures so that I can move the horses from pasture to pasture so that I can let it continue to grow, the grass to grow, so it won't turn into a muddy mess. So,
How much time would you say you're gonna have the horses outside on pasture versus being kept in the barn?
about 10 hours a day.
You know, part of the reason that our ordinances state that we should have 200 feet from the property line, there is some consideration for the odors and so forth with the animals. And this is going to require keeping a pretty clean and odor. You say you've talked with your neighbor?
I spoke to all my neighbors, and the one directly adjacent to the property, between the property and Mount Tabor Church Road, is the one that will be affected, the one whose house is within, I'd say, 140 feet of the proposed barn. She actually asked me that question. She said, I don't have a problem with the horses. As a matter of fact, I love horses. I'd love to come over and pet them. She goes, but what are you going to do with their waste? And I said, it's a good question. I said, my intention is to create a sinkhole in the back far corner, far away from any of the properties, and bury it there and use some of it to fill the holes in the pastures. For this way, because it's great fertilizer.
So you're gonna compost it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I like horses. I've got my own I've had horses for years, and they require some attention, and
Oh, yeah. And I
you've
enjoy
got-
giving them the attention they do require.
Have we had anybody call in regarding Mr. Robert? Anybody?
I'm sorry, sir? Oh,
We have had no opposition on this one, phone calls or letters or emails or anything.
Do we have any letters approving it and saying that, like your neighbor, has she written in?
We haven't received anything.
Okay. You're the neighbor?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Great. Okay. So first of all, I want to say I've taken offense that you don't like Florida. I'm born and raised Floridian, so. And that's why I'm here, so, yeah.
I just didn't like the heat. The constant 90 degrees, it's a humidity.
I miss the weather, I miss the water, and that's about all I miss.
Yeah.
And we had horses as well. Are the horses on the property now, where are they being kept?
They're being kept at the old property in Florida
Oh,
until
so
we
they're
can
still
get them
in
up here.
Florida, got you, okay, okay. And neighbors are good with it, and you've got a plan?
Yes,
Where you lived in Florida, they stayed on the same property that you all?
yes.
Okay. And that was on smaller acreage?
2.5 for 3? 2.8.
I got one last question.
Yes, sir.
What are you gonna do about the flies?
Flies? Swat them?
You gonna do that all the time?
I've done it in Florida. I'll keep doing it up here.
Well, I know now technology's advanced, and there is feed out there that's available that suppresses flies. I like horses. I've had horses my whole life too, and it is something that you have to think about, that
Sure.
we as a people, your neighbor may want to pet them today, but if she wakes up and smells after it rains tomorrow, and then you get bombarded with flies, and I always like to go on the record and say that you're responsible.
I agree.
If we agree to this, then ultimately it's not our responsibility to clean up after your horses, it's yours. And I know you're an adult man, but people say all sorts of things. You know, people like dogs until the dog starts barking.
Sure.
And I just like to make that known that I believe that you should be held to the highest standard just because you are reducing the setback not by 10 feet but by 130 feet. That's not a minimum, that is a maximum. You're decreasing the setback by more than double, and that is a problem for me, but I understand at the same time what you're trying to do, and I understand that perimeters are money, we can't afford different things, and I'm not implying that to you, but you chose this place, and unfortunately people mislead. It's not the first case we've heard like this, but it is a fact that when the health department's called, they're not going to call one of us, they're going to call you if there is a complaint or there is a problem. And I just like to voice that and make it known that ultimately we're not giving you a free leash just to go out there and turn the horses loose and not take care of them, not maintain them, and not be responsible, because there's a lot of people that's not responsible owners. And that's my thing, that a horse is a 24/7 job, and I like to remind people, and I'm not trying to school you, but I like to go on record as voicing my opinion that things that I've experienced, and I believe that you'd be a good neighbor if you're a man of your word, and the neighbor comes to you and they have a problem, you have to take care of it.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm done.
Thank you, sir. The only thing I would like to do is refer back to my life. My 30 years as a police officer. I retired as a police chief.
Yes,
I
sir.
am fully aware of my responsibilities,
Yes, sir.
and I take them very seriously.
Yes, sir.
I take my neighbors or other people's health and wealth and happiness over my own. I always have my entire life, because that's the life I've chosen.
Right.
I do not intend, nor will I allow anyone to be adversely affected by my choices. And I don't know how else to say other than that. I'm very aware of my responsibilities as a owner of horses.
Yes, sir.
And I intend to do my part. If there's ever a complaint, as I've said many times to almost all my neighbors, if you ever have anything, just tell me. Just like I just tell my officers when I was the chief, just tell me what the problem is, and I can fix it.
Right.
I can make changes to make it right. If you don't tell me, I won't know. So don't sugarcoat things. Just tell me the way it is.
Yes, sir.
I am very sincere about my.
I think we've taken up your 15.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I do have one more question,
Yes,
though. Is there a restriction on how many horses they can have? based on the acreage.
No. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, the zoning ordinance it does not regulate number of horses. We always refer that you might talk to county extension or somebody knowledgeable of what your pasture's like, and so you can make sure that you don't overgraze and you have enough room.
Okay, and I just have one more question. When you bought this property, did you do research before you bought it to see if you could build a barn?
I thought it was pretty extensive, actually, the research that I did, but obviously I was mistaken. You can only do so much checking before you have to take a leap of faith and go with it. And I saw I didn't run into any roadblocks through my investigation. And so when the time came, we made the offer and purchased the property. Like I said, then when I came here and went to the community development office is when I found out that the setbacks were what they were, and without changing them, we couldn't have our horses, and that changed everything.
Any further questions for Mr. Thomas? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone in opposition to this variance? There being none, and you say we never received any letters or anything concerning it.
No, sir.
Does anybody have any?
No, we do have the neighbors here that are fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything they want to mention?
Jack, I would like to add one last thing. If their neighbors are not opposed to it, that if they would sign our book and give a brief statement that they support it.
I think that would be appropriate. Would you mind doing that? Just make a statement.
That we have a record that you did have support here.
This is right there.
And I'm Jane Corey, and a neighbor of Richard and Teresa, and we're looking forward to having the horses there.
Thank you.
Have you? Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Now. This horses in a subdivision is something that we're really not up to, or have. I remember we've had cases in this situation before where we had some people that would show up, and they were actually concerned that it possibly would render their property of less value. Have you considered that?
I don't think that it will. All of the lots on Cedar Ridge Drive, I believe, are at least 5 acres. Some are more, so doesn't really feel like a neighborhood, so to speak, and that all the neighbors are acquainted with each other, but it doesn't feel like the houses are not close together.
Mm-hmm.
And when the leaves are on the trees, there's many houses that you can't even see.
And you, okay, we just want to make sure that you all are aware of what the potentials and the possibilities that would be concerned, because that's what this board's all about, is to make sure that the property values are not hurt, and neighbors and people in the surrounding area are not harmed in any way by the variation, because these ordinances that we have in the county their restrictions are for a purpose, and that is to protect the other family owners as well.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for doing this. We appreciate the protection.
Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to?
Well, I just want to kind of confirm the building material. This looks like, is this like brick, again, hardy plank, what kind of, materials are used on the, do you know right now? Again, aesthetics, as you mentioned, you know, keeping values of the neighborhood, aesthetics are very important.
Right. I agree. Aesthetics incredibly important. It's going to be a wood structure with wood clapboard in the front. The front of the structure, according to the subdivision, has to mirror the front of the house. So the bottom's going to be, bottom 3 feet is going to be brick. The top's going to be white clapboard, so that it mirrors the house. Aesthetically, the building will be, as in your packet, should be appealing.
Yes.
That was my objective.
Okay, thank you.
Any further statements, comments?
Very long question.
Do what? Yeah. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All in favor of approval, raise your right hand. Okay. And it's unanimous. And any further business on our agenda?
We need to back up to number 2 and vote on the motion, or have a motion on the prior minutes from June
Oh!
last.
Yes, sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, has everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes for the last meeting? That's June the 12th, I believe, meeting. Has everybody read those, had an opportunity to look them over? I think there was just, was it just 3 here that night? Yeah, I believe it was just 3. We had a quorum, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Okay, if everybody's had a chance to look at them, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as written?
So moved.
Any, a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And minutes are approved as written.
I just wanted to make an announcement. Welcome to Dave Roberts. Appreciate
Thank you, sir.
being here
Yeah,
on board. And,
I'm sorry, I was just put
very
into
pleased
this.
with y'all. Thank you, all of you, very much.
Yeah, it's good to have you aboard. Okay.
Congratulations. Go get the horses.
Yeah. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
A second?
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.